Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Esther and I'm happy to have you back on this channel. If you have not subscribed, what are you still waiting for? Please press that subscription button and be part of this family. Today I'm going to be sharing with you Gracie's educational journey from nursery school to college. Gracie went to 2 nursery schools, 3 primary schools, 1 secondary school, and now she's in a college. Whilst there are specialist schools available, we find that majority of children with autism, at least 71%, attend mainstream school. I seriously don't understand why this is the case. What does this mean to these children? It means a lot of these children with autism are not getting the educational support that they need. Having children with autism, education is a key part of these children's development. Research has shown that mainstream schools are not fully educated or equipped to deal with children with autism. Children with autism are very challenging and their needs varies, and because of their challenging behavior, these mainstream schools are not equipped enough to be able to give them the support that they need, and also they cannot give them the necessary education that these children need. So sending your child to a mainstream school when they actually need to be in a specialist school is not helping your child at all. And I can understand the reason why some parents are not sending their children to this specialist school. It could be that these parents are still in denial. They still do not want to accept the fact that their child has autism. That happened to me. And when you do that, you're delaying their growth because they're not getting the right support that they need at the time that they need it. Children with autism learn differently from other children who do not have autism. Okay, how do you think autistic children learn differently from other children? These children need a structured routine and social learning. They need a tailored approach, including support, to help them engage. I found that when we don't have a structured plan for Gracie, she cannot learn. Autism is a spectrum, and it depends on where that child is on the spectrum. That is how they would know the needs of that child and the support that they could put in place for that child. Gracie is non-verbal. I've said this many times on this channel. She's non-verbal, and because she's non-verbal, she cannot communicate with us what she wants by speaking to us. Many children with autism are highly visual learners and need instructions to be given this way. That is how we communicate with Gracie. We use her pegs to communicate with her. She is visual. I know I'm a visual person myself. So Gracie likes to communicate with us by using her pegs. Many autistic children requires one-to-one. Without this one-to-one support for these children, it is unlikely that child will make academic and social progress that they need. I've shared the story of when Gracie was young and she had to go to a nursery school. It was at the initial nursery school that they found that she could possibly have autism, and that was where they sent her for an assessment. So I took her out of that nursery and took her to a private nursery. So Gracie went to 2 nursery schools, and then she went to a primary school, and then we moved. So she went to a primary school when we were in East London. We moved to Kent, and then she went to another school. The first school that she went here was a mainstream school. I was advised to send her to a mainstream school. At that time, I was still in denial. So I still struggle with the fact that Gracie has autism. So I sent her to a mainstream school. At that school, they found out that they could not help Gracie. They could not support Gracie's needs. So Gracie was expelled. And then we looked at another school and took her to another mainstream school with a special unit. At this time, Gracie was in about year 5. So imagine all the years that I had wasted. She went to 3 primary schools. The first one she went was a mainstream school in East London where we used to live. We moved to Kent and I put her in another mainstream school. She was there for I think she was there for a year, or she was there for a year, not up to 2 years. She was expelled because they could not deal with Gracie's needs. They were not able to deal with her challenging needs. And then we took her to another mainstream school because I insisted I wanted her to go to a mainstream school. So they put her in a mainstream school with a special unit. And at this time, she was in year 5. So imagine all the years that I had wasted. I had refused Gracie going to a special school whereby she could have been able to get the support she needed earlier and she would have improved greatly. So if you are a mother looking at me and your child has autism, please don't use your heart to make a decision for your child, because we know we can be very emotional when it comes to these children, but make sure you make the best decisions that will suit this child. It's not about you, it's about this child. So think about what that child needs, the help he or she needs, and make sure you get that help as early as possible. Don't use your heart in making decisions. So if your child has been diagnosed with autism, consider that child for special school. What are the regulations that we have in the UK for these children? There are no regulations in the UK to ensure teachers in mainstream schools have qualifications and experience in teaching autistic children. So you need to understand that. If you send your child to a mainstream school, no regulations to ensure that those teachers there are able to teach your child. The only current regulation in place in the UK is that all mainstream schools must have a SENCO, S-E-N-C-O, which means a Specialist Education Needs Coordinator. And this person communicates the needs of that student to the staff. So it's like this person is in the middle between the child and the school and also the parents. What are the roles of the SENCO? The first role is for them to provide support for children with autism and their parents, and also to provide support for the teachers to make the right any right adjustment that that child may need. So I have a question. Do you think mainstream school teachers feel comfortable enough to teach autistic children? My answer is no. According to a survey, 2012 survey by Charity Ambitions about autism, 60% of the teachers in England do not feel they have the adequate training to teach our children. So if these teachers do not feel comfortable that they're able to teach our children, why do you think we should send our children to mainstream schools? Another point is that these children of autism are bullied and expelled at schools. I have already told you that Gracie was expelled from one of her primary schools. The main reason why our parents might want to send their children to a mainstream school is so that they can mix with other children who do not have autism and pick some words and some behaviors and improve in their behavior. But that is not the case. When you send your child with special needs to a mainstream school, one, you are dragging that child back. Secondly, these children are being bullied, and at the end of the day, they will be expelled. Some parents too think that their child's educational placement is not adequate. So therefore, what can we do? What I did with Gracie was, after Gracie's primary school, and I saw what my poor child went through, when it came to secondary school, I had to put my foot down. I went and I did a research of the secondary school I wanted Gracie to go to. And I decided that I wanted her to go to a boarding school. I had to do a research on that boarding school to make sure that that boarding school was able to meet her needs. So I called the school and I asked what they have in place for, for children with autism. And so therefore, I decided to put that school down for Gracie. And I insisted they should put the school on her statement, but they refused. So I went ahead and I appealed. There was no support. I didn't have any support in doing this. But when Gracie was refused, I decided to contact some, I think they call them parents partners. I contacted them and I asked if they could help me. So all they did was they came to me and they helped me in preparing my my letter of appeal. So if you are going through an appeal process, maybe you're just about to put in an appeal, consider calling any parents partner that is in your borough, or call the National Autistic Society. They are able to help you as well in preparing your letter, your appeal letter that you will send to your local authority. That was what I did, and Gracie's appeal was upheld. So because of what I had put Gracie through in primary school, I decided Gracie would go to a special school, and I sent her to a boarding school, and I have no regrets in doing that, because at that boarding school Gracie learned a lot. She improved a lot. When Gracie was at home, she was not sleeping at all. I'm going to do a video on sleep. I struggled, we all struggled with Gracie and sleep. Children with autism's brain don't shut down. So we struggled with Gracie and sleep from the onset. It was a challenge. But when I decided to send Gracie to this boarding school, her sleeping pattern improved a lot. Because these guys are specialists and this is what they're hired to do. Compared to me, that have to work and have other children that that I have to look after. I did not regret sending Gracie to a boarding school. It improved Gracie's social skills, it improved her educational skills, it improved all areas of Gracie's needs, and it helped us as well and gave us some respite as well. My advice would be, if your child is at the verge of going to either primary school or secondary school, consider that child to go to a specialist schools.